there, college hoops fans. Welcome back to the College Basketball Bracket Science Podcast, your encyclopedia for the college basketball world. Happy New Year to all of the college hoops fans out there. It is 2025. We are all appreciative of being here and appreciative of this January 4th college basketball slate that we're going to talk about. It is upon us. 2 more days. We're recording this Thursday, January 2nd. Right about 7 o'clock, right about as Penn State is about to take on Northwestern in this basketball game here over on Peacock. So got that in the background while recording this podcast right here. For those who do not know, January 4th, the biggest slate of college basketball we're going to see this year. At least in my opinion, it's absolutely fantastic. We start at 11 a.m. on January 4th with a top 10 matchup. That's how spectacular this is going to be. ESPN will be open all day. It is going to be so much fun on Saturday, January 4th. So if you have to work, call off work. We got a good day. In today's show, we're going to talk about all those games with the opening KenPom line. So some betting lines that you can expect to see this weekend. And then before diving into that, of course, we'll talk about what has happened over this holiday season, over the holiday week. We'll go back a couple days. And then, of course, we have some new rankings. It's Thursday, as mentioned, so we are not going to Illinois and Oregon play later tonight. Great game, but so bear in mind that some results may have changed things in terms of these rankings. But we're going to go over some of the rankings. We're going to talk about some of the last unbeaten teams. A couple more have fallen, and we only have 3 left, in fact. And, of course, where the heart of the show is going to be going over that loaded January 4th slate. We're going to be ad-free today, so be sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on social media at Bracket Science with 2 S's. That's on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Go check it out, and then click the link below in the description for our Amazon page with some of the best deals for college clothing. Go check that out. Before we dive into anything, we are going to do a quick segment of Beej's Breakdown for those who don't know or are new. Beej's Breakdown is where we just talk about news and notes around the college basketball world. So without further ado, let's dive into Beej's Breakdown.
It's time for Beej's Breakdown.
All right, starting off Breed's Breakdown with the news that took over college basketball so far this week, which was Florida State head coach Leonard Hamilton sued by 6 recent players for allegedly promising them a certain amount of money in between $100,000 and $250,000 per player. Is the rumor going on out there? Most notably Jalen Worley, who transferred to Virginia, and then when Tony Bennett retired, is now going to Gonzaga. Anywho, it's 6 players, upwards of about $1 million total. It's not a great look for Florida State. Leonard Hamilton is looking like it's going to be his last year. Just age, not to be that guy, but age and just performance over the past couple years. I think this is going to be his last year. This is just kind of the cherry on top. I'm not going to pretend like I know all the NIL stuff. It seems like, if I had to guess, Leonard Hamilton was promised some money from a donor and never got that money. Therefore, he can't pay the players. So they're suing him, not the university. They're suing Leonard Hamilton specifically for basically giving his word and giving a promise there. Then the other news we just wanted to talk about, got to mention it. I think if you're a college basketball podcast, you're pretty much obligated to mention it. Bryce James, son of Bronny James, commits to Arizona. Only a 3-star recruit. I didn't realize that he was only a 3-star recruit, but he is going to play for Tommy Lloyd and Arizona. We'll see how that goes. All right, now let's dive into the results. We're going to go all the way back to Saturday. We're not going to talk about these results too in depth, but we'll talk about them a little more when we get to our rankings. On Saturday, remember we had that ranked-unranked matchup. Yes, this was a while ago. Number 14 Gonzaga took on number 22 UCLA. This game was in Inglewood, California. UCLA got the better of them, 65-62. Gonzaga 4 losses now. Yeah, they started opening night, looked like the best team in the country after killing Baylor. 4 losses since then. Talk about them here in a little bit. Memphis took down number 16 Ole Miss at home, 87-70. Good redemption win. Remember, Memphis lost to Mississippi State. Now they get revenge. Beat Mississippi. Number 20, San Diego State, hosted Utah State, and Utah State went into Viejas and beat them 67-66. And then New Mexico traveled to Colorado State and beat them 76-68. Not really an important game there. 2 teams not really in the conversation of the tournament right now. Maybe New Mexico can get there, but right now, no. Now, I pulled up the December 29th scoreboard for you to look at. We're not going to talk about any of these games. Nothing real important happened. Winthrop went hand in hand with Indiana. That's about it. Indiana pulled away late, but Drake beat Belmont. Talk about Drake here in a second. December 30th, we did have some better games. So we'll talk about this here. Number 3, Iowa State traveled to Colorado and beat them. They've now beat them for the second time this year. They played in Maui in one of those rare, you're playing a team in your conference, but doesn't go towards your conference play. Iowa State beat them 79-69 this time. Houston took down Oklahoma State 60-47 at Oklahoma State. Number 16, Cincinnati traveled to Kansas State. Kansas State got them. The Octagon of Doom 72-67. Cincinnati, one of those teams to kind of keep an eye on, kind of fluctuating a little bit towards, I know they're ranked 16th at this point in the AP poll. They don't really have a win of note that is too spectacular. They beat Dayton. Yeah, that's a good win. They beat Xavier at home. They're going to need some quality wins in Big 12 play to avoid moving towards the bubble. Now, John Calipari got his revenge on Coach Greg Kampe over at Oakland. Number 23, Arkansas beat them 92-62, as everyone just kind of expected. TCU and Arizona clashed in Big 12 opener play. This game was at Arizona. They took them down 90-81. The battle of who is the third best team in the WCC, San Francisco and Santa Clara, and it lived up to the hype. San Francisco won the game at home 97-94 in overtime. A lot of fun there. Rutgers destroyed Columbia, no surprise there, and then Princeton had a late comeback to take down Akron in a good mid-major game there. Let's talk about New Year's Eve. This is the day we're going to talk about most in-depthly. This in New Year's Day, we had some good hoops. Love to see it, not just football. We got college hoops. The big one, West Virginia travels to number 7 Kansas at Allen Fieldhouse, where no one wins, and they won 62-61. This game was not close for a while. West Virginia was the better team most of the way. Kansas made a late push. The crowd really got into it. I'll talk about this game a little bit here because I have some real concerns about Kansas. First, we should mention Tucker DeVries, Amani Hansberry. Tucker DeVries, obviously a All-American candidate, their best player, did not play. Amani Hansberry, their third leading scorer, big guy, did not play. So if you're West Virginia, you go in. They're 9-2 going into this game, now 10-2 after this win. Beating them without Tucker DeVries and Amani Hansberry, that is a great job. It was their defense. Their defense was a story in this one. Held Kansas to only 61 points at home. That's unheard of. Now, if you watch the game, it was one of the best watches you could honestly watch in the college basketball game. It was bad officiating, don't get me wrong. I thought everything kind of led towards Kansas being the advantage in terms of who was getting more calls in the game, and then late it just got ugly. They called an over and back on Zeke Mayo for Kansas. If anyone saw it, he just point blank missed it. It's like, how do you miss one of those things? Kind of the only reason I mention this is because it's kind of a common theme in these Big 12 games. The Big 12 officials, not very good. If you're to watch these games, they just seem to call everything. It's always it's just ugly. Big 12 seems to need to be a little bit better on that. But Zeke Mayo did have a real impressive game. He was their leading scorer, and that kind of causes me concerns, quite frankly. Now, Zeke Mayo is great at his role, but if Zeke Mayo is your best player and your best guard, I don't know what this Kansas team's ceiling is. So they did insert Flory Badunga into playing a ton of minutes in the second half. Bill Self just switching things up, and it worked. Flory Badunga was great. They put him in. He's a big guy, big 6'11" freshman. They put him in with Hunter Dickinson. Usually they don't play together. They played together in this one. And then I thought Bill Self made a great decision. The game kind of just started changing. Bill Self just started laying off of West Virginia's guard, Sincere Harris, just kind of daring him to shoot the ball, and he was, and it wasn't going in. Now, Sincere Harris had a decent game, 11 points, 4 of 11 from the field. Not spectacular, but they kind of sought out the weak spot is kind of what I saw here. And then Kansas kind of just went on a run right after that. But then DeVries, shout out to him, Darian DeVries, just decided to take him out, and West Virginia immediately went back on another run and ended up winning the game. So it was just great coaching both ways. Now, I know Bill Self is going to kind of be ridiculed because of I saw some good adjustments here. This roster is just not fitting together. Specifically, the main problem, A.J. Storr and Rylan Griffin have just been completely non-existent. Supposed to be your two best transfers. They're non-existent. David Coit is playing more minutes than them, and David Coit does not look like a Big 12 basketball player. All respect to him. He's a great basketball player. He just doesn't look like he should be Kansas's, he's in the lineup when you're down at home to West Virginia. Like, no, it should be an A.J. Storr or a Rylan Griffin. They've both just been bad, quite frankly. They're not fitting in. But the story, Eduardo Andre had a great game for West Virginia. Great game. I thought just eye test Javon Small, transfer from Oklahoma State to West Virginia, their point guard. He was the best player on the floor, quite frankly. Hunter Dickinson, I know, would seem to be the best player on the floor in most times. He was not. Javon Small was the best player in this game. He knocked down a huge corner jump shot to kind of, get West Virginia back on track and end up winning the game. He made the free throw at the end of the game. I know there was a questionable foul call at the end, or non-foul call at the end, where KJ Adams caught a baseball pass from Hunter Dickinson. I don't think it was a foul, quite frankly, but I do see the argument of it could be. I would have swallowed the whistle right there, as the refs did, so maybe good on them, even though it was a badly officiated game, I will say. But, hey, it was bad both ways, so that you can't really use that as an excuse either way. What I will say is I've been seeing a lot of hate on KJ Adams right now from Kansas fans. I didn't really know this, that Kansas fans were so upset with KJ Adams. I saw it going into that game, and then it really started picking up on Kansas Twitter throughout the game. I kind of see it, quite frankly. I love KJ Adams. I think he's a terrific guy. I think he's a great athlete. But yeah, there's some moments where it's like he's 6'7" and cannot stretch the floor whatsoever. I think he should be playing minutes, but I almost feel like you should bring him off the bench. And then Hunter Dickinson, it's just kind of one of those scenarios where it's like Hunter Dickinson is always going to get him some. They're going to get him shots. He's always taking these mid-ranges. Like every time I see Hunter Dickinson take an elbow jumper or KJ Adams, I'm like, why? Why? That's one of the worst shots you can take. They're not good shooters. It's like they're building it around Hunter Dickinson, and he's not good enough to be the guy to build around. He's a great college basketball player, but what has he really done in terms of winning, I will say? Led Michigan to a 1 seed. Yes, people forget Michigan was a 1 seed. They didn't really go anywhere. It's just, you can't build it around him when he is not an NBA-like talent, quite frankly, in my opinion. But anyways, West Virginia, great resume building win here, and just confidence builder win for them and for Javon Small, just proving that he is that guy. When they get, hopefully Tucker DeVries comes back. He's out indefinitely. Hopefully he comes back, and when Amani Hansberry comes back, man, watch out for West Virginia. They're probably like a six-ish seed right now. Yeah, they're that good. They have a great resume. They have wins at Kansas. That's as good of a win as you can have. They have a neutral site win over Gonzaga, a neutral site win over Arizona, which Arizona I think is going to, I can't believe I'm saying this, I think they're going to start getting back on track and get into the tournament. But West Virginia, wow, great start to the season. Great start. All right, moving on from that game. Norfolk State traveled to number 1 Tennessee. Don't know really why I'm even mentioning this game. Tennessee beat them 67-52. No doubter there. Duke beat Virginia Tech. Nothing serious there. Number 8 Marquette took down Providence at Providence. No Bryce Hopkins. Bryce Hopkins is hurt again. This seems to be kind of a lost season for Providence. Unfortunately, Marquette kills them. Baylor dominated Utah. Baylor, don't look now, starting to play some really good basketball. They're starting to figure some things out. They're getting healthy. They look good. Now, this was my second most surprising result of the day, was UCF traveling to Texas Tech. Final score, UCF 87, Texas Tech 83. Seems like a 4-point margin. UCF killed them the entire way. They were the better basketball team the entire way. Texas Tech has nothing on their resume right now. Texas Tech was my sleeper team, as I saw it just about everywhere. I thought I was on the Texas Tech train until I saw everywhere. They're like, yeah, Texas Tech's top 20 team, top 15 team, great roster. Thought they were one of my sleepers. Not panning out so good. They do not look good. JT Toppin was great in this game. Outside of that, it's never good when you look at the score, at like their box score or something. You're like, yeah, their players played all right, and you're still just getting dominated by UCF at home. Not a good look. Texas Tech is really going to have to start figuring some things out, or they're not going to be in the tournament this year. Crazy. I was so excited for this team. Arizona State went to BYU. BYU killed them 76-56. Arizona State seems to be getting worse. Richie Saunders, though, for BYU, huge game. 30 points, 33 points. One of those, I apologize, I forget, but he was just dominant the entire way. They win. BYU looking like on the bubble right now, but looking like a team that could realistically climb up to like a 7-ish seed. NC State traveled to Virginia in the rematch of that crazy game last year where Aiden O'Connell banks in a 3 for NC State in the ACC tournament. And the rest is history. They go on to the Final Four. Virginia got revenge on them, 70-67. Virginia, not as bad as I was expecting. TJ Power, as bad as I was. He's been absolutely horrible. The transfer from Duke. Sorry, TJ Power, but he was one of my potential breakout guys. He barely even plays. But anyway, Virginia picks up a good win. They're not out of tournament conversation right now for an at-large bid, but I mean, they're not in the tournament right now, but hey, they're doing decent for themselves right now. St. John's traveled to Creighton. Creighton got them 57-56. St. John's, loved by the metrics, not much of a resume right now, but Creighton, I think for the Big East, I think St. John's a lot more likely. I think St. John's is a better team. They're a lot more likely to get into the tournament in terms of resume and just metrics in general. Creighton, I think this was a better Creighton win for the Big East in terms of maybe getting 4 or 5 bids. Utah State continued to stay hot. They traveled to Nevada and beat them 69-64 in a great mid-major game. Well, that was a great mid-major game. Another great mid-major game. In the A10, VCU travels to St. Bonaventure. St. Bonaventure gets them 77-75 thanks to Council. Council is his name. I apologize. I think it's Ricky Council, something like that. But anyways, last second layup, great stuff. St. Bonaventure looking like a potential at-large team out of the A10 there. Keep an eye on them. And then Wake Forest traveled to Syracuse, beat them 81-71. Two very disappointing teams this season. Moving on to January 1st. This was yesterday. On Wednesday, number 11 UConn went to DePaul, beat them 81-68. No surprise there. The game we do want to talk about, North Carolina travels to Louisville, and Pat Kelsey gets his first signature win as the head coach of Louisville. If you would have said last year that Louisville would beat North Carolina on their home court, everyone would have said you're crazy. Here they are, 83-70. Now, North Carolina was without Seth Trimble, but Chucky Hepburn was the story. He went off 16 of 20 from the free throw line. Good God, he was getting fouled a ton. Good stuff for Louisville, getting closer and closer into reaching their way into a at-large bid. They look all right. They're a top 6 team in the ACC at worst. I mean, I understand it's a home game, but you still got to put North Carolina somewhere up there. Obviously, Duke, Pitt, Clemson. Then who next? I don't know. They're right there. They are right there. Moving down, one of the craziest endings to a basketball game, and didn't even end up being a close game. Villanova went to Butler. Villanova was down 64-51. Yes, if you see the graphic on YouTube, look at the final score. Remember, Butler, 64 points, Villanova, 51 points. The final score ended up Butler 65 points, Villanova 73 points. They finished the game on a 22-1 run. Absolutely incredible. Also, probably a better win for the Big East because Villanova has a chance of getting in the tournament. Butler, it's not looking like it, and quite frankly, it's looking like the Thad Matta era might. It's not looking too sharp over there at Butler, but finish on a 22-1 run. Good stuff for Villanova. Thad Matta just got Kyle Neptuned. That's never good. Stanford traveled to Clemson. Clemson beat them 85-71, and then Drake, the Bulldogs, the America's team, I guess we'll say, going into the year, loses their first game at UIC 74-70. Ben McCollum, first loss as a Division I coach. Wow. And then California went to Pittsburgh. Pitt took them down 86-74. Cal, top 3 worst power conference team in the country. I think the ACC might have all 3 of them. The bottom of the ACC is so ugly. Speaking of that, Miami, first game without Jim Larinaga, traveled to Boston College, got beat 78-68. The best thing about California and who was the other team? Virginia Tech and Miami being in the ACC, best thing this is for is Boston College, because Boston College just kind of stays bad but not horrible, just like how Cal and Miami and, quite frankly, Virginia Tech are horrible. So Boston College, maybe the 4th worst team in the ACC this year. Love to see it. Belmont traveled to Northern Iowa in a good Missouri Valley game. Northern Iowa got the better of them, 76-70. Let's go back up to that California-Pittsburgh game just real quick. I just want to mention I am so sorry to all Pittsburgh bettors in that one. The line ended 12.5 Pitt. Pitt was up 17 with 56 seconds left, and Cal ended up covering in this game. So sorry to all the Pitt backers in that one. All right, that's it for the games of the week. Let's talk about the remaining undefeated teams. We have three of them. We got the graphic pulled up, and what do you notice? All three of them are in the SEC. Tennessee, the number one team in the AP poll. Oklahoma, Porter Moser squad been fantastic, and Todd Golden's Florida Gators. The SEC is on a historic pace right now in terms of college basketball. Yes, they are that good. We'll talk about these a little bit more in a little bit. Who might end up being the last undefeated team? Because all of these teams have some tough games coming up this week, specifically January 4th, because it is an awesome slate. We'll get there, I promise. Next, let's talk about our power rankings.
Power rankings.
Alrighty, now remember, this is before the Thursday games end, so most notably Illinois and Oregon might be fluctuated a little bit, but as of going into Thursday night, bear in mind, this is what rankings I got. Number one, Auburn. People, I love seeing that Auburn and Tennessee kind of have like newly founded beef because both teams think that they deserve number one. If you're going to put Tennessee number one, I'm perfectly fine with it. I put Auburn number one. That UConn team last year, we mentioned as one of the best teams ever in college basketball. Auburn's net ranking at KenPom is very similar. Their offense is a lot better than UConn's was last year. I mean, bear in mind, this is only 13 games into the year. Then UConn's was over the entire season, so things might change. But Auburn's net ranking is as high as that. They're like 5 points better than anyone else. I have Auburn at number one. If you're going to put Tennessee number one because they're undefeated, hey, they look the part. Their defense is awesome. Their defense is fantastic. I do have Tennessee at number two. Tennessee is great. Iowa State at number three. Iowa State has separated itself as the definite best team in the Big 12 so far this year. We'll see about Big 12 play. You never count Kansas out, but Kansas starting off 0-1. You've also got Houston. It's looking like it's going to be Iowa State or Houston. Think what you want about Houston. It's Iowa State, definitely the favorite right now. At 4, I do have Florida. Why Florida is behind Duke and Alabama in most of the polls, I'm not quite sure. They've done nothing but just dominate. I understand they haven't had as tough a strength of schedule, but they look great. I would put them at number 4, quite frankly. Now, I wouldn't have them as a 1 seed, so I guess that could be the argument. I would have Duke as the 4th 1 seed. But Florida, in terms of an AP poll, I can't believe they're behind them. At 5, I do have Duke at 11-2. 6, Alabama at 11-2. 7, Marquette at 12-2. Yes, Marquette is off to a fantastic start this year. They're flying under the radar. They're a national title contender. At number 8, I have Kentucky, also 11-2. 9, I got UConn. UConn back up into the top 10. They look as good as anyone right now. They're starting to just, every time you check their score, like they're playing DePaul. I get it, but DePaul's a little better. And as soon as you turn it on, you're like, oh, yep, they're already up 15. This looks like UConn of last year. They're obviously not as good as last year, but they are still really good. I got them up at 9. I got Oregon at 10. I just have cold feet about Oregon for some reason. I think they're good. I think they've been the best team in the Big Ten. There's no argument there. They're 12-1. Ton of quad 1 wins. They'd be they'd be on the border of a 1 and 2 seed. I'd probably lean 2 seed, but they're right there. They look fantastic. At 11, I got Mississippi State all the way up to 11. They might be the most underrated team in the entire country. Josh Hubbard might be the most underrated player in the entire country. Mississippi State off to a great resume, would be about a 3 seed right now. At 12, I do have Houston. Yes, this is going to be rare because Houston has 0 quad 1 wins. Houston hasn't beat anyone. They're 9-3. It's Kelvin Sampson. They're getting healthy. I think they're going to kind of run through the Big 12 again, with the exception of Iowa State, Baylor, and Kansas. I think they're going to be just fine. I think they're getting healthy. They're figuring stuff out. To me, just watching the eye test, their defense looks different than other teams, just like Tennessee's. Tennessee's defense looks just like, you can't score on that. If I was out on the court, I wouldn't even know what to do. Same kind of with Duke. I lean Tennessee having the better defense, even though Duke's better at KenPom. Duke's just as good. Whoever has a number 1, that's fine. Houston also in that conversation. I'm right there with them. At 13, Texas A&M. They're 11-2 to start the year. At 14, UCLA. They're 11-2 to start the year. And then 15, I drop Kansas, and this might not be low enough. Kansas, like I mentioned when we broke down that game, I have real concerns about Kansas. I think they'll figure it out. There's so much talent on this roster. This might be inappropriate to say, but I'm kind of excited for the Kansas era without Hunter Dickinson. I don't know if that's mean to say. I'm just kind of ready for them to move back to star guard play and star, Jalen Wilson, Ochai Abai, and just stuff like that. I'm kind of ready for them to move on and get back to, I don't know, being that kind of place instead of a real half court. We'll see. We'll see. At 16, I got Gonzaga. Gonzaga down there, kind of a little disappointing. I still have them as the best 4-loss team in the country. They're 10-4. Got a lot of quad one wins. Played a tough schedule. 17. Speaking of teams that has played a tough schedule, Memphis. I have them up at 17, even though they have a quad 3 loss at home to Arkansas State. Other than that, they've been great. They're 10-3. 18, I got Oklahoma. This might seem a little low, and I think it quite frankly seems a little low. I wanted to put Oklahoma up to about 14. I just couldn't get there because I think if I were to put Oklahoma and Kansas, let's not do the Kansas bias. Oklahoma and Gonzaga on a neutral floor. I think Gonzaga would be favored by like 8.5 points, which is why I just couldn't get all the way there. Now, that doesn't mean anything to some people. It really doesn't mean anything most times to me. But that's just a little bit too much for me to move Oklahoma up. But they've been fantastic. They won the battle for Atlantis. They haven't played the easiest schedule to be 13-0. They'll be tested. They'll be tested this week. We'll talk about that. Got Baylor up to 19th after getting blown out by Gonzaga early in the year. They've done nothing but been pretty solid. They're not bad. 9-3. 20 Maryland. Maryland flying under the radar. Maryland could very well, if you were to tell me Maryland wins the Big Ten, I would not be surprised at all. They have a ton of talent there. They're 11-2 to start the year. West Virginia up to 21, entering the rankings for the first time all the way up to 21. 10-2 to start the year. Michigan State at 11-2. They're 22nd right now. I've spoken kind of bad about Michigan State, which I kind of feel bad about for the entire year. They're winning games they should win, but I need to see them beat elite competition. They beat North Carolina, or that's kind of aging a little bit poorly. I'd like to see them. Once again, I just fear a little bit. If Jaden Akins is your best player, I have a little bit of fear. Like he was non-existent against, what game was it? Kansas, maybe, where he was just non-existent, and then something about this Michigan State team just doesn't do it for me. I don't think they're going to win the Big Ten. I think they're fine. They have Tom Izzo as a coach. You're always going to be fine. Something about it. At 23, got Utah State. Utah State 13-1. Yes, terrific resume. Huge wins at San Diego State and at Nevada. 24, Purdue down at 9-4 on the year. They're barely inside my top 25. They are starting to show signs of really struggling without Zach Edey, as a lot of people predicted. Myself, I did not predict it. I might have been wrong. I thought they were going to be just fine. I still picked them as the favorite to win the Big Ten. We'll see. We'll see. They got a great home court advantage, so maybe that can lead to some, we'll see about Purdue. At 25, I got Ole Miss. Ole Miss 11-2 on the year. Remember, they just fell at Memphis. 26, I still have Michigan. Something about this Michigan team screams Final Four to me for some reason. Now, I know this might be higher than most people would have Michigan. Something about how fast they play. They look so athletic. Dusty May runs a terrific scheme on offense. It looks really good. They're having some turnover problems, yet they're still winning games. This is a team where I have a feeling they'll end up, they could get as good as like a 6 seed. I have a feeling they're going to end up around an 8 seed. Man, that is a nightmare second round matchup. If you're Duke and you're a 1 seed and you're like, I gotta play this team with 2 7-footers in the second round, where also their guards can really score the ball. They've got some serious firepower there. I would not want to play Michigan. At 27, I have Illinois 9-3. Just haven't really done anything too spectacular, but have been solid. They're right there. At 28, Georgia. Yes, Georgia. They're doing well to start the year. 12-1. Great start. At 29, I do have Pitt. Pitt is 11-2 to start the year. And at 30, rounding out the top 30, Arkansas at 11-2. Some teams I strongly considered. I did still consider Cincinnati, although they're starting to fade heavily. Wisconsin, still kind of flying under the radar. St. John's, Clemson, San Diego State, Nebraska, and Ohio State. Nebraska and Ohio State, if you were to have them on your rankings, I'm perfectly fine with it. If you were to wake up in, 2-3 months and tell me Ohio State's in first place in the Big Ten, I would probably believe you. In fact, I got an Ohio State shirt on right now. The Buckeyes, not looking bad, but they have bigger things on their mind with this college football playoff after dominating Oregon yesterday. Get to draw Texas. And then I do have Dayton and St. Bonaventure on this list as highly considered. That is it for the rankings. Next, we're going to dive into the meat of the show. I mean, we don't talk, for those who have been around, we don't talk about the games too long, but we do like to go through and prepare what to watch. Let's dive into the games to watch for this weekend.
Games to watch.
Alrighty, so as mentioned, it's Thursday. We have not gotten the results of most of the games on Thursday, most notably Illinois at Oregon. So let's talk about Friday. Friday, we got some good Big Ten hoops and some good Big East hoops. Starting at 7 o'clock on FS1. These lines are via KenPom, by the way. They are not the FanDuel lines or BetMGM lines, whatever you use. These are the KenPom lines, which is usually where the lines start at. 7 o'clock, FS1, Wisconsin hosts Iowa. Wisconsin favored by 4 in that one. In the American, 7 o'clock, ESPN2. Temple hosts Wichita State. Temple favored by 1. Who really cares about that game? I needed to fill up a graphic for 7 teams. If you're going to tune into that, go for it. Wichita State's not bad. Temple's okay. Neither team, I don't think, is going to end up in the tournament. The game you do want to watch at 8 o'clock on Fox. Ohio State hosts number 18, Michigan State. Kind of just gave some praise to Ohio State and kind of gave some not so praise on Michigan State. I think Ohio State gets the job done this one. I think they're coming out fiery. First game of the new year for the Buckeyes, -3 at KenPom. I think they get the job done. At 8 o'clock on the CBS Sports Network, Xavier travels to Georgetown. Georgetown, don't look now. They're in the tournament conversation. Xavier needs this win bad. Georgetown cannot fall in this one. Big matchup there. 8 o'clock CBS Sports Network. 9 o'clock on FS1, Creighton travels to number 8 Marquette. Marquette favored by 11 via KenPom. Marquette is better. Marquette should win. 11 points is a lot. Stay away from it. 9 o'clock, ESPN2, St. Joe's travels to St. Louis. Once again, okay matchup. Who really cares? We're not going to talk too much about this one. St. Joe's favored by 1 in that one. Neither team in the tournament conversation. At 11 o'clock on FS1, Nevada travels to New Mexico. New Mexico favored by 3 in that one at the Pit. Would also stay away from that one, as I would stay away from most Mountain West action. All right, now let's get into the day. The day of the year, Saturday, January 4th. Yes, look at that graphic I have pulled up. For those watching on YouTube, 11 games. This is one of 2 graphics of 11 games. There's that much to talk about. Now, these I separated them into, like, you have to watch these games, and then just like under the radar games. But we have Georgia at Ole Miss, 2 teams with a combined 3 losses as an under the radar game. So both graphics are great. Let's start with the must watch games. As mentioned, at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. How fantastic. 8 o'clock a.m. Pacific Time. Man, I need to move to the Pacific so I can wake up and watch Kentucky hosts Florida. Love to see that early in the day. Florida got them at Rupp last year. Remember that? They picked up a big one. It was in overtime, maybe even double overtime. Can't quite remember, but Florida, number 6 in the country. Kentucky, number 10. But Florida is favored on the road by 1. Remember, Florida, one of the last 3 remaining undefeated teams. I think Florida's better, quite frankly. But, I mean, you cannot bet against Kentucky at Rupp, usually ever. So this should be a fun one. I'm staying away from it. I can't wait to just watch and enjoy that game. Following that, at 1 o'clock on ESPN, John Calipari and number 23 Arkansas travel to number 1 Tennessee, also one of the 3 remaining undefeated teams. Tennessee favored by 12 via KenPom. They got them at home. I think Tennessee gets the job done in that one. 12, kind of a lot of points. 2 o'clock on CBS. Let's talk about some Big 12 action. Number 25 Baylor travels to number 3 Iowa State. Iowa State favored by 9 via KenPom. Iowa State, we mentioned the favorite in the Big 12 right now. Baylor playing good basketball. Don't know. A lot of points. We'll see. 2 o'clock ESPN Plus. BYU travels to number 14 Houston. BYU just picked up that huge win over Arizona State. Can they do it against this Houston defense? Houston favored by 11. I don't think so. I think Houston gets the job done in that one. At 2 o'clock on Fox, number 15, UCLA. So if you mention it's 2 o'clock and we've had a game on Fox, CBS, ESPN, it's loaded. 2 o'clock, Fox. Number 15, UCLA travels to Nebraska. Nebraska favored by 1. Wow. Fred Hoiberg, don't look now, in the running for Coach of the Year. He has been absolutely fantastic. Fantastic at Nebraska. This is a hard one to pick. I do think UCLA is better. No one wins at Pinnacle Bank, though. I think I maybe might lean Nebraska in that one. But UCLA's defense is really legit. At 2:15 on the CW, number 4 Duke travels to SMU. Andy Enfield's SMU team would be in the tournament right now. Don't look now. They look pretty good in their first year in the ACC. I know there's been a lot of negativities that I've said about the ACC. SMU, not one of them. They've looked good. Duke is favored by 8 via KenPom. This is a tough test. That's a lot of points. We'll see. I would stay away from it. 2:15 on the CW, remember. At 2:30 on ESPN2, Arizona and Tommy Lloyd and the potentially Bryce James. Maybe he'll take the trip to Cincinnati, the number 16 team in the country, coming off that loss. Cincinnati favored by 4 in this one. This is going to be my bold take of the week. I think Arizona goes in there and gets a win over Cincinnati. I just have kind of that feeling. I think Cincinnati is a little bit overrated, and I think Arizona's starting to get some things figured out. Caleb Love, by the way, last game, 30 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, starting to finally play some good basketball. We'll see. He'll either shoot him in it or shoot him out of it. We know how the Caleb Love experience is. At 4 o'clock on the SEC Network, Missouri, who is probably in the tournament right now comfortably, maybe not comfortably, but they would be in. Take on traveling to number 2 Auburn. As mentioned, Missouri comfortably in the tournament. Auburn favored by 18 via KenPom at home. That is crazy. That is how good this Auburn team is. 18 points, that is so many. I would have to take Missouri, but man, I wouldn't put it past them to blow them out. Auburn looks spectacular. At 4 o'clock on CBS, San Diego State travels to Boise State. Boise State hasn't done much. They beat Clemson earlier in the year. Other than that, it's been kind of a rough non-con. They need this one. Boise State favored by 2 in that one. That'll be a fun one to watch. At 6 o'clock on the SEC Network, the last undefeated team we'll talk about here, number 12 Oklahoma travels to number 5 Alabama. Alabama favored by 9 in that one. This will really give us a real feel on how good Oklahoma is. If Oklahoma can even keep it close, keep it within that 9 number, that's pretty good. This Alabama team, we know how quickly they can get ahead and how fast they can really score the basketball. So Oklahoma at Alabama, got Arkansas at Tennessee, and Florida travels to Kentucky. Florida and Oklahoma in the 2 real danger zones. I think Tennessee's going to beat Arkansas, quite frankly, but so will Tennessee be the last one standing? We'll see. At 8 o'clock on the SEC Network, so the SEC Network got a busy day. Texas travels to number 13, Texas A&M. Battle of Texas, Texas A&M favored by 7 in that one. Who will be the best team from Texas? It certainly isn't Texas Tech as I thought it was going to be. Texas A&M favored by 7 via KenPom. All right, on to the next graphic. Yes, we're still on January 4th. Under the radar games, here we go. Georgia at number 24. Ole Miss at 12 o'clock on the SEC Network. Ole Miss favored by 4 in that one. 2 teams that are like borderline single-digit seeds. Probably both would be single-digit seeds right now. This game can really improve both teams' seed line. It's a quad 1 opportunity for both teams. Big one, 12 o'clock SEC Network. At 12 o'clock on CBS, North Carolina, the struggling Tar Heels travel to Notre Dame. Notre Dame has been, quite frankly, very disappointing this year. North Carolina is favored by 4 via KenPom. I think North Carolina should win. I wouldn't drop this one if I were Hubert Davis, or there might start having some talks, unfortunately. At 12 o'clock on the CW, NC State travels to Wake Forest. Wake Forest favored by 4 in that one. I never recommend betting a Wake Forest game because their offense can be really good. Actually, you know what? Quite frankly, the whole year it's been pretty bad. Last game it looked pretty good against Syracuse, but stay away from Wake Forest games. They're frustrating. At 12 o'clock on the CBS Sports Network, Oklahoma State travels to West Virginia. West Virginia trying to stay hot. They're favored by 12 in this one. Seems like a little bit of a trap game after that obvious just emotional roller coaster of a win at Kansas. 12 points seems like a lot to give Steve Lutz. We'll see. I would probably take Oklahoma State plus 12 in that one. I obviously think West Virginia will get the job done, though. At 2 o'clock on FS1, Butler travels to St. John's. St. John's favored by 12 in that one. Butler, I wouldn't lose by more than 12, quite frankly, if you want to keep some Thad Matta job security. Quite frankly, I think St. John's is going to kill them, though. At 4 o'clock on the ACC Network, Louisville travels to Virginia. We've praised both of these teams today. Virginia picks up a win here. There's going to be serious talks about them being a legit bubble team. Same goes for Louisville. Louisville, a little bit better of a resume than Virginia right now. This is a fun one. I'll be tuning into that one. 4 o'clock on the ACC Network. At 4:30, on ESPN2, Vanderbilt travels to LSU. LSU is favored by 3. You might mention, why am I bringing up this game? Because both teams, Vanderbilt I think would be in the tournament right now. LSU's like a legit bubble team. This is a fun one. It will be a huge benefit of a win for whichever one gets it done, boosting them into the tournament probably. At 6 o'clock on ESPN Plus, Colorado travels to Arizona State. Kind of the same thing here. Arizona State's favored by 5. They're both bubble-ish teams. I think Colorado's going to go in and get them done. I think Arizona's getting worse. I might take that back. I don't know. Stay away from this one now that I think about it. Arizona State just has that potential, but Colorado, I think, is better coached. Arizona State, I think, has more talent. 6 o'clock ESPN Plus. I'm staying away from it now that I think about it a little bit more. 6:30 ESPN2. Kyle Smith and Stanford travel to Pitt. Pitt favored by 12 in that one. I think Pitt should get the job done. At 7 o'clock on ESPN Plus, this is a fun one. Fun WCC matchup. San Francisco travels to Washington State. Washington State, I know I said earlier in the show, San Francisco and Santa Clara as the battle for the third best team. That was just kind of the prediction of the year. Washington State and Oregon State also definitely in that conversation. So we'll get to see it here. San Francisco, Washington State, both on the bubble, quite frankly. Washington State favored by 1, 7 o'clock ESPN Plus. Give me Washington State. They look good. At 8 o'clock on Fox, Michigan travels to USC. Yes, Michigan favored by 6, even on the road at Eric Musselman's USC team. All right, now we only have Sunday to talk about. Let's talk about Sunday here. Let's start with Indiana traveling to Penn State. Now, Indiana has Rutgers as we're speaking right now. I think the game tips off at either 8 or 8:30. If Indiana loses that game and then has to go to Penn State and they lose, you might be looking at a coach getting fired in the middle of the year scenario. It's sad to see Indiana's just kind of fall off the past couple years. It might be, unintelligent or just ignorant or whatever it is to just kind of put all the blame on Mike Woodson like I kind of have. But that's where it all starts. It's been ugly. This team has a lot of talent, and they're not good. They're in the 60s at Ken Pom. Are you kidding me? Indiana, you better hope, or Indiana fans, quite frankly, might be rooting against Indiana at Rutgers or at home against Rutgers and then losing at Penn State just so they can move on. They could have had Dusty May. Yes, I know. So could have probably Ohio State or Louisville. Ohio State and Louisville, quite frankly, are much better than Indiana is with Mike Woodson. It's tough to see, so I have no idea how to pick this game. 12 o'clock, Big Ten Network. Penn State is favored by 5 via Ken Pom. At 2 o'clock on NBC, Providence travels to number 11, UConn. UConn favored by 13. That's not enough points. I think UConn's going to beat them by 20 plus. At 2 o'clock on the Big Ten Network, Northwestern travels to number 20, Purdue. Purdue favored by 6. At this moment, I think Purdue beats them by more than 6. Give me Purdue in that one, but Northwestern and Chris Collins, sneaky good. At 3 o'clock on ESPN2, now I made this graphic last night before Drake lost because I thought Drake had a great chance of winning that game, and quite frankly, being the last undefeated team, they lost. They now will host Murray State. They're favored by 8. This game's at 3 o'clock on ESPN2. Murray State, not bad. Drake, been great. I think they rebound. 8's a lot of points. We'll see what that spread ends up being. 4 o'clock on ESPN Plus, number 7, Kansas. If there was one team, which is just as crazy to sound, that I would not want to go play at after losing a home game to West Virginia, I think it would be UCF. UCF has been playing some good ball. We mentioned they just won at Texas Tech. They beat Texas A&M early in the year. They beat Kansas last year at home. They're playing some pretty good basketball right now. Watch out, Kansas. Watch out. They are favored by 5 via Ken Pom, by the way. I'm staying away from that one. At 4 o'clock on Peacock, Maryland travels to number 9, Oregon. Oregon favored by 4 in that one. If you were to tell me these are the 2 best teams in the Big Ten, I'd probably believe you. Maryland's been great. Oregon been spectacular. We'll see. That's a fun one. At 4 o'clock on the Big Ten Network, number 22, Illinois travels to Washington. Washington is really struggling in the first year under Danny Sprinkle. Illinois favored by 8 in that one. At 5 o'clock on ESPN, North Texas travels to number 21, Memphis. Memphis favored by 9 in that one. Memphis has been great. They have a tough game going on actually right now against FAU, so we'll see how that result fluctuates things. North Texas, one of the better mid-major programs in the entire country. Tough one, 5 o'clock ESPN, number 21, Memphis. Will they get the job done? We will see. That will do it for our show today. So yes, that is the weekend. It is loaded. It is loaded all weekend. Call off work on Saturday. Once again, it will be worth your while. Thanks for everyone who stuck with me about 45 minutes into this. It's been a long podcast, had a lot to talk about. We will be back again on Monday-ish. I think we're going to release another bracketology. So after all these results, no sense in doing a bracketology before this January 4th slate. It's just ridiculous. That's going to change so much. So after that, and probably after Sunday, maybe late Sunday night, we'll do another bracketology. But it'll be fun. It'll be fun to see where these teams end up going. Who will be the last undefeated team standing? Great slate. Hopefully everyone had a great holiday. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the show. Be sure to follow us on social media at Bracket Science with 2 S's and click that link below for some good college finds. They got deals running on Amazon right now. Go check out our Amazon page. We'll talk to you again real soon. Everyone take care. Enjoy January 4th.